not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light.
We are indeed live.
I am light.
I was playing this the whole time. I couldn't get in, so I couldn't get upset.
I am light. I am light.
11:11. It's 12:11 here.
I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light.
Hello, light beings.
I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light.
Who else is light? Who else knows?
I am light. 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 Yeah. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's probably midnight for some of you. It's probably, I don't know what time. Some of you had it start right at 11:11. Hey. Hey, everyone. Let me say hi to people. Hey, Miss Lizzie. Hey, Elaine. JC Moore. White Seattle. Hey, girl. Claude. Hello. Latoya. Hello. Susie. Hello. And, of course, Gia Makova Sapienza. I call her Miss Sexy Name. Hello, Joanna. Hello, Leah. Hello, Kelly, my sister from another mother, Kelly Phillips. Hi, Pavitra. Hi, Estelle. Hey, Solon, honey. What you talking in a different language? Look, she's posting in what? What is that? Korean? That's right. I think you're in Seoul, Korea, right? Well, my, do I ever have lots of stuff to share with you all today. And I actually have a couple of messages from my divine team. You all know I just sit with my divine team and just converse. And I have a couple of messages that I'm going to share with you today because it was beneficial to me. And I'm pretty sure it will be equally as beneficial to you as well. Seoul, Korea, girl, isn't it like midnight where you are? I think. You're going to be up till 3 a.m. ma'am. Don't you have work? Kelly Phillips, Andrew Phillips from another mother said hi. Hey, Andrew. And that's my brother's name too, actually. Although he's not Phillips, he's Dukaroo, which was my maiden name. Yeah, 1 a.m. Oh my, sorry. And don't ask me for recordings. Y'all know how this goes. If my heart says it's a recording, it'll be there. I tell you what I feel right now. I don't think this is going to stay up as a public video. So grab the link. It might actually be an unlisted video. So hold on to the link. It may work, but it may not be a public video after we're done. It may be an unlisted video, meaning you won't see it listed anywhere. But if you have the link, you can grab it and you can rewatch. That's what I'm feeling right now. I don't know. I might delete it afterwards. I have a lot of personal stories to share. So as I share and things come out, I might decide I'm going to delete this afterwards. So no promises. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, hey. But I'm going to share with you all my journey over the last 2 months or so, different experiences that I've had. If you're on my email list, you already know the agenda. The agenda hasn't shifted. I said the agenda might shift. I'll be with whatever wants to come out of me. But if you're not in my email list, I pretty much shared, my dad died in February. And I returned to Trinidad for his funeral. And I actually have not been back to my home country for 21 years. So everyone is seeing me 21 years later. I've got some stories to tell about that. But and I've seen my mom. I brought her over here, and you see people. There's WhatsApp and there's video streaming and there's all that. So it's not like I didn't see people, but seeing them in the flesh. I hadn't been back to. Oh, Andrew Phillips laughed. You're my brother and my sister from another mother. So I have some. Whenever I do a live stream or whenever I do a video of any kind, I always ask myself, what is your intention for doing this? Sometimes my intention is one thing only, joy. And I don't have any other agenda. I'm here to tell jokes, laugh, make fun of life, and just have a good time. And we'll do some of that here too. But my intention for this live stream is really to share from my heart how I experienced my father's death, because quite honestly, no one close to me has died where I was in the stream of preparing for their funeral. My sister died a year and a half ago, and boy, do I have some stories to tell about that, because I hired a medium after I came back from Trinidad. That's going to be the last segment. But so the first thing I'm going to talk about is my experience of my father's death from an awakened perspective, and being in the stream. When my sister passed, I wasn't in Trinidad. I attended the funeral remotely by Skype. My sister and I attended the funeral remotely by Skype, but I wasn't there with my family going through all of it. I was there with my family going through my father's passing and preparing for his funeral and all of that. So it was a little bit much more sobering. And I hadn't been back for 21 years. And so I'm going to share some personal experiences from that experience of my father passing. Now, my father was 90 days shy of 98 years old, so he had a very long life. The second thing I'm going to share with you all is family dynamics, and some pretty challenging family dynamics I experienced as well. I was actually calling it family drama, and my divine team said, keep calling it drama, and you're going to keep experiencing it that way. So I stopped calling it family drama, and I was like, we're just going to talk about the family dynamics that played out over the last few weeks, because I had to relearn what I know to be true, and I had to reawaken to what I know to be true with regard to family dynamics. Anyone have family dynamics playing out in one way, shape, or form? Either children, mother, father, parents, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever. Who's got family dynamics playing out in your life right now, where you look at people and you go, look. Anyone got family dynamics where you're like, yes. If you got family, you got family dynamics, okay? So there's about 7 points of relearning that happened for me with regard to family dynamics. So I'm going to share that, because it was really, and one of the messages from my divine team with regard to my family dynamics as well, because I have a niece in Trinidad that said there are three times in life where drama plays out: when somebody gets married, when somebody dies, and what she said was the third one: when somebody gets married, when somebody dies, and I forget the other one she said. For sure, this had some family dynamics play out. So I will tell you how I experienced the family dynamics. I wish I could say that I was awakened through the whole thing. I was not. Even though my divine team gave me a lot of awakened principles to flow by, I wish I could say that I flowed by it 100% of the time, but I didn't. So I'm going to be very transparent about how I experienced it. I'm not going to get into the stories, because the stories are just, everyone loves hearing the stories. Girl, here's what my brother did. Oh my God, here's what my sister did. Girl, let me tell you what happened with my mother. Everybody wants to hear the real juicy story. I was willing to tell some of that, but the more I moved into my awakened state, the more I moved into my awakened perspective on it all, the less I had interest in telling the story, and the more I had interest in, what is this here for me? What is this saying about me? And what is my growth and expansion and all of that in the midst of it all? So I'm going to go through those 3 segments. So we're going to talk about my father's death first. I'm going to talk about my family dynamics. And then I'm going to tell you my experience of hiring a medium and why I hired a medium right after I came back and what happened, which was really mind-blowing and beautiful. But mind-blowing from the sense that, nobody actually dies. They just transition. They know I am the black sheep in my family, which is okay with me. First of all, stop saying that. Don't ever utter those statements again, okay? I was uttering the statement, the opposite statement, which I stopped saying. But I kept saying, 53 years old, and I didn't know that I was the golden child of the family. I didn't know. Okay, now you're saying you're the black sheep of the family. I didn't know I was the golden child of the family. I didn't know that resentment was coming toward me in some way, shape, or form with regard to that. But I no longer say that. I just go, family dynamics are playing out because we're human. We're human, and that's why it's playing out. Okay, yeah, exactly. Change your tune. I am light. Yes, exactly. Change your tune. Because if you say you're the black sheep of the family, you're going to experience, what do you feel when you say that? You can't feel joy when you say that. You can't feel high when you say that. You feel the heavy energy of what that feels like, right? So change what you're saying and you'll feel what you want to feel, really, right? So let me start out with my family and returning to Trinidad. So it had been 21 years, and I know it's 21 because the last time I visited Trinidad, my 24-year-old son was 3 years old. So I know I know it had been 21 years. Whenever I go to Trinidad, or so it had been, whenever I'm in the plane landing, I feel this, I'm home, I'm back in my home country. I actually didn't feel any of that. And it was kind of odd to not feel that. But I hadn't been there for 21 years. This feels more like home to me. The US feels more like home to me than Trinidad. Trinidad feels like my culture, the way where I was birthed, But I feel more at home in the US than I do in Trinidad. So I didn't feel that when the plane was landing. Usually when the plane's landing, I have this, and that didn't happen. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I haven't been here in so long, right? And my ex-husband, my first husband, he arranged for he and I grew up in Trinidad, got married in Trinidad, and then moved to the US, right? And then we got divorced after we were married for about 16 years. But we were really good friends. So he arranged for an old friend of his who's a taxi driver to be my personal taxi driver the entire time that I was there. So he picked me up from the airport with my mother, and we were driving through, and he knew my ex-husband, right? So he's like, I know you guys have been here. I know you guys have been here. And he's like pointing out different things. And I'm like, I don't remember, right? And I said, you know what? I won't remember all the peripheral things because I haven't been back for so long. But one thing I will remember is the street that I grew up on. And it'll become all familiar to me when I get to the street and my house and my home. It'll all feel familiar to me. And so we were driving around and he was trying to take me different places to see if I remembered. And I'm like, dude, I don't remember. I just don't remember. It's been too long. And so he was still continuing to take the scenic route to see if I remember different things. And then he pulled up on one street and he said, do you remember here? And I went, no. And he said, this is the house you grew up in. And I went, because this is the street you grew up on. And I literally went into shock because I have this image in my head. It's not like I forgot the street that I grew up on. It's not that I forgot the house. I have this image in my head for the street and the house that I grew up on. And I'm looking around and nothing matches the image in my head. Now, it was okay that my house didn't match the image in my head because they'd done a whole lot of remodeling over the 20 years. Things have changed. They put different colors and they, added different parts of the house. So that didn't bother me. What bothered me was the street that I grew up on. The image in my head is not matching what I'm seeing. And it wasn't like the houses changed, okay? My house changed, but all the other houses is the same. And I could see parts of the image in my head matching the different parts of my street. because I spent a lot of time on the streets. I was a tomboy when I was growing up, right? And I literally went into shock that I couldn't remember the street that I grew up on. And now, being an awakened soul, I was like, oh shit, I just changed parallel realities or something. That's the first thought. I was like, oh my God, did I change my life so much? Did I change reality so much that I actually changed my past? Which you can do. And those of you who have been in the Playground of Desire, we talked a little bit about that. So I was like, oh my God. Did I change my past? Did I change my reality? And there was a little bit of that going on. You can actually do that. There are people who have completely changed realities. If you know about parallel realities, you can actually, well, we're changing parallel realities all the time anyway, but you can do it so dramatically that it looks very unfamiliar to you. And I literally was in shock for about an hour. All I did was look at the street, and I was like but I have the image in my head. What's going on? What's going on? You know, and the street looked completely different. And I knew the houses didn't change, but it was just really strange. And I'll fast forward to the story. When I came back to the US, it was like I was in this weird zone. And the minute I got to my street, when I returned to the US, I felt this, like I went into something. And all of a sudden, I was back into my regular life. And what I had just experienced felt almost like a time warp. I can't explain this. I don't know what happened, but I just lived with it. You know, when I was there, and the taxi guy came to pick me up, like he was my personal Uber. And so he was just, every morning I'd call him and say, this is what I want to do today. Here's where Mom and I want to go today. You know, here's what we're going to do, da, 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 da. And I just live with it. But the whole time I was there, I was just going like, what happened? Why does this not look familiar to me? And you could say, well, Allison, it's been 21 years, so you don't remember any of it. No, I had the image in my mind for what my street looked like and what things looked like. I have a vivid memory for what it looked like, okay? But what I was looking at did not look like that. And I had this feeling come over me. And then when I returned to the US, it was almost like I was in this weird zone. And the minute I was about to turn into my street, there was this come over me. And I was like, what was that? And then all of a sudden, my street that I lived on, I felt like I was back into some other element of time. And I can't explain any of that, but it just felt really time warpy to me and really, really strange. And to this day, I'm like, I think I might have bended reality a little too much or something in my life, because you certainly could do that, right? So that was a little weird experience. But with regard to the death of my father, what was very interesting to me, because I know nobody dies, right? I know everybody just drops this physical form and moves on to whatever is next on your soul's agenda. So I know my dad didn't die. And in fact, he was talking to me probably about 3 or 4 hours after his passing, telling me to deliver messages to my mother. And I'm like, I can't do that. She's going to think I'm crazy, you know? And so I had these conversations with him probably 3 or 4 hours after he died. When you're in the mix of the death of a loved one and you're with your family, you pick up their energy, you know, if you're not careful. You don't have to, but you pick up their energy of grief, you pick up the sorrow, you pick up all of that. And I'm trying to not go, well, I wouldn't say I was trying to not go there. I was just having the experience of preparing for the funeral and all that. What took me off guard was I had my mother, my brother, and I, and his girlfriend went to the funeral home to pick out caskets. And I had never done that in my entire life. So that whole experience was, I was crying. My mom was crying, which made me cry. And we're sitting there in the funeral home, and you have to have this conference. I don't know if any of you have ever had the death of a loved one where you're literally preparing the funeral. I never experienced that before. So it was a very new experience for me. And my mother was there, and the woman's talking about different parts of the preparation for the funeral and all that. And it was all that I could do to just hold it together, because even though you know the person, and I might cry, I might get emotional, I'm okay. Even though you know that the person isn't gone, there is this part of you that left. This is my father, you know, and you get this feeling like I don't have a father on earth anymore, you know? And even though my father and I weren't like really, really close, I didn't grow up with him. He was over here. And it was quite common when we were growing up to have a family member, usually the father, leave, go to the United States, get a job over here, send money back to Trinidad and send money back to your family. That's actually a very common thing. So I didn't feel like I didn't have a father. I knew why he was there. And it was very common practice for one family member to go to the US, get a good job, send money back, right? But because he was over here, I really didn't get to know him very well. He filed for my green card. I'm now a US citizen, but he filed for my green card for me to come over here. So really grateful to him, because if he were not here, I wouldn't be here with you all today. So I didn't grow up with him because he spent probably 30 or 40 years in the US, and he would come back home a few times a year, once or twice a year or whatever. So I didn't have this really, really close relationship with him. When I came over here, I lived with him for 2 years. And even in the 2 years that I lived with him, he worked nights and I worked days. So I barely saw him in the 2 years that I lived with him. And then I got my own place and all that. So we never had this really, really close relationship or anything, but it's still my father, you know? And so to be in a funeral home preparing for the funeral was a very surreal experience that kind of caught me off guard emotionally. And, you know, the funeral director or the funeral person who's helping you prepare for the funeral, they've done this like a million times, you know, so they're pretty like, okay, so here's what we'll do with the body and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the body, that's my father, you know? And there was this, even though I know that we're not this physical body, and even though I know that he wasn't dead, you know, that he's alive, very much so. And there is no death. I'm aware of that. There was still this sadness, you know, and this just heaviness, you know, and just being in the funeral home itself. So I'm here to say to you, even though you know nobody's dead, even though you know there's no such thing as death, you still have the human experience, you know? And then we had to get up and go look at caskets and pick one out. You never realize what happens after you pass and what your family, that was the most sobering thing for me. This is what my family would go through when I'm gone. And you never think about that. And you never think about all the things they have to do for your funeral and all the things they have to find. We had to figure out where the heck his birth certificate was. I mean, the man's 97 years old, almost 98. Where's his birth certificate? Because you can't bury him. I don't know if it's the same in the US. I've never buried anyone in the US, but in Trinidad, you can't bury someone until you prove they were alive. So you have to submit their birth certificate in order to get a death certificate, and you can't bury them until you get the death certificate. So there's all this stuff about, you know, where the birth certificate, and with just all this running around. And I'm in all of that going, wow, you never know what happens. And then I start thinking, where's my birth certificate if anything happens to me? And I'm like, if something would have, not God forbid, something suddenly happens to me, I realized, wow, my family's not prepared for something suddenly happening to me. All of my paperwork is not in the right place, you know what I mean? And all of these things are happening in my mind because I am now inside the preparation of a funeral. And I get to see the chaos it can create when your family doesn't know where stuff is, you know, and how to access stuff and where different things are and what your wishes might be. I mean, all of these things are so unknown, and we don't want to talk about death when we're alive. We just don't want to talk about it, right? Because like, we're all gonna die, y'all. There's one day you're gonna turn on YouTube and somebody's gonna say, Allison's gone. You know what I mean? It's like, you have to know that that's true. And we don't want to prepare for death at all. You know, we just think we're all gonna live, and then somebody dies and we go, oh my God, no! Like, do you think they would live forever? You know? So the sobering thing for me and experiencing the other side of it was, I have to make sure my family's prepared for if anything happens to me. And of course, in true Allison style, I'm like, I'm gonna do a video that I'll point them to where the video is, right? And the video is gonna go, if you're watching this video, I'm dead. So here's what to do, right? And of course, I will be in my own jovial style because I know there's no death. I'll be like, I'm watching you right now. I'm not actually dead. My body is dead, but I'm actually seeing everything that you're doing. Just so you know, that's all going to be in the video, right? Funny story. Because I had hired a medium when I came back, I was telling my son, my 17-year-old son, about the medium that I hired because he thinks all of this is bullshit, right? You would think that my children are all woke as fuck, but no, they're not. They're living their own separate lives from mama, okay? So my son, when I talk about the law of attraction or I talk about, you know, talking to dead people, all I get is, because he's 17, right? He's like, whatever. But funny story. After I had the experience with the medium, I'm in the car with him. We're going for pizza. And I was telling him, I was like, guess what I did? And I'm telling him, right? I was like, I hired a medium. He goes, what's a medium? Like a psychic? I'm like, yeah, but they talk to dead people. And he's like, oh, whatever. So I'm like, listen to what happened, right? I'm telling him the story, which I will tell you all in the end. But I'm telling him the story, right? And all of a sudden he goes, that's just weird. And I'm like, I said to him right then, I said, and when I die, you gonna know I'm alive because I'll be in your room flicking the light switch going, I'm still here. He said, he looked at me and he goes, so now it's now dawning on him that people actually don't die because I'm telling him the story about what happened with the medium, right? And he goes, Mom, don't do that. I'm like, oh, now you think people don't die. Oh, now you think I could do that. Oh, now you think I could do that when I'm dead. Okay, all right. So that's this funny thing, right? But even though you know somebody is gonna die, everyone's gonna die. Everybody's gonna die, y'all. No matter which way you're gonna go, you're gonna go. Okay. So I came back and I was like, I have to make sure everything is in order. I'm shooting a video for whoever, you know, has to bury me when I'm dead, you know. I'm going to prepare for my own funeral. Here's where to find a birth certificate. Here's how to get into my bank account. Here's all the passwords here. Because that's another thing. It's like everything was like, how do you get this? How do you get that? Right. And you don't think. You think you're gonna live forever. So you don't tell anybody these things. It's like, I'm gonna live forever. I got, like I always say, I got 50 more years on this planet. Everybody in my family dies at 98. You know, which is really interesting. My dad was 90, almost 98. He had no wrinkles. I'm like, how? How does your face have no wrinkles? My grandmother was 98 when she died. No wrinkles. I would look at her sometimes and go, Grandma, what? How do you not have, how do you not have wrinkles at 98 years old? How is that even possible? I don't know if it's hereditary or what. I don't know what it is, but I was really shocked. No wrinkles at 98. I wish I could say that. I see some coming in there. So I don't think I can tell that story. But great moisturizer. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's growing up in Trinidad and living in Trinidad. I don't know what it is. But we think we're going to be here forever, you know, and that really being on the other side where you're literally preparing for the person's funeral really was a sobering thing for me. I was like, does my family, like if something happened to me, do they know they would need my passwords, you know, they would need, because I'm a single mom. I don't give anybody my passwords, you know, I would say my husband has that, but I don't have a husband, you know what I mean? So who has access to all these things that they'll need to have access to if I were gone tomorrow? God forbid. I know nobody wants to think about that. No, Allison, don't say that. I'm going to be dead one day. You're going to be dead one day. You know, might not be tomorrow, but who knows? You know, I don't know. So that was a very sobering thing for me. And I came back and I was like, okay, we need to get this paperwork together just in case anything happens. Everything's where it is. Shoot a video. I'm going to shoot a video for the people that are at my funeral so they could play it. I literally am going to do that. But that was one of the things that changed for me, is like, prepare for the end, Allison. Not like think about it all day long or anything like that. But to me, death is like I said, when I shoot that video, it's going to be, I'm dead. Just want to let y'all know, here's the video. You know, I'm going to be jovial because I know when I'm dead, I'm off to other adventures that are just as fun as this one. Okay. The other sobering thing was being at the funeral. my brother and my mother and I were the three closest family members. My other sister couldn't fly over because she had paperwork issues. She couldn't fly back home. But we're all like, who's going to do the eulogy? Nobody wants to do the eulogy because nobody thinks they can, right? Because everybody thinks it'll fall apart. My mother's like, I'm not doing the eulogy. And then my brother's like, I don't know if I can do the eulogy, you know? And I'm like, look, I could do public speaking at the drop of a hat. I could talk for 3 hours straight with no preparation, but I don't know if I could do it. A eulogy at my father's funeral. I don't know if I could do it. So we're all like having a backup plan, right? Backup plan was to have my brother's daughter say something or read our eulogy if we couldn't read it, right? So there's all these things, all these dynamics that happen that you don't think about, you know, when you're alive and well and living life, you know, and you don't realize that, geez, if you go now, your family has to do all of these things. You know what I mean? One of the things that I will say in my video, if I'm dead, here's my video. I'll be saying to everybody, look, get the cheapest damn coffin because I'm already dead. Because there was issues around how expensive a coffin to buy, you know? And I'm like, I'll be saying in my I'm dead video, get the cheapest damn coffin, okay? Wrap me in a paper bag. Don't even show my face because I'm already gone, okay? Let people come see the videos that I've done in the past. Let them see the picture. They don't need to see my face. just get the cheapest thing ever. Because people had issues over that. It's like, the man's dead. You know, it's like, whatever. But there's all of these family dynamics that come into play when you have to make these decisions as a family, you know, because there's the people who want to not spend much because, hey, he's already gone. And then there are the people who want to spend a ton of money to impress the people who come to the funeral. And there's all these crazy family dynamics that play out. But the funeral itself was really interesting because I was totally fine when I got there. I was like, perfectly fine. I'm not falling apart. I get it. No, actually, the day before we had to go view the body, which the whole process and the words they use is just, oh God, it's just so heavy, so heavy. But we had to go view the body to make sure the body looked the way it's supposed to, because I didn't know that your entire body deflates when you pass. Like, your eyeballs are based on the blood flowing through your body. And if there's no blood flowing through your body, everything pretty much deflates. I didn't know that. The funeral person at the morgue is talking about this like it's a piece of meat. And she's like, okay, so I'm like, oh my God, this is my father you're talking about, right? All this stuff that you don't know, you know, and they have to literally, like, the funeral home has to pump the body back up to what you want it to look like. It's like all this craziness that goes on behind the scenes when you bury somebody. When we went the day before to view his body, was the first time I was seeing my father. Well, I shouldn't say the first time, but it had been 21 years. And actually, no, it hadn't been 21 years because he was here when I was here too. It was shorter for my father, but I haven't seen him in a while. I've talked to him, you know, but I haven't seen him in a while. And I was totally fine. I was like, this his body. This is his body. This is not who he is. Well, until I had to like go stand next to it, and I just fell apart. It was just completely fell apart. And then there was this issue with he doesn't look the same because whoever prepped the body didn't do a good job. So my brother's now saying, closed casket. We're going to have a closed casket funeral. He doesn't look the same. And then there was issues over that. You know, it's like all this stuff playing out over the death of one person. Okay. But at the funeral itself, I was fine. Here's what happened, though. It was a Christian funeral, and my sister lives in Macon, Georgia. So I had her on video. So I was videoing the whole, you know, the whole thing for my sister. Okay. She was over here and she wanted to be in the funeral, and and the only way to do it was to video shoot the whole thing. So I was doing that. I was totally fine. I was totally fine through the whole thing. I was just totally fine. The one thing that really surprised me was they started singing Christian songs, and it lifted, because we chose uplifting songs, right? And when the songs were being sung, you could feel the heaviness lift in the room. Those of you who grew up in the Christian church, if you know the song by Donnie McClurkin called Caribbean Melody, or Caribbean Medley, it's a Christian song, but it's a kind of a Caribbean flavored Christian song called Caribbean Medley by Donnie McClurkin. And they started playing that. And all of a sudden, when that song started playing, I had this beautiful memory of growing up in the church and how much joy I felt singing gospel songs and being in church. And my entire spirit lifted, and I started singing the song and singing the song. I sang that song for weeks after my father's funeral. And I loved it. I loved the song. I loved the uplifting energy that it brought to me. And one of the things that I experienced quite unexpectedly was no judgment at all for the Christian thing, you know, not that I had any, but I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed, and what it taught me was you can access joy through the path of Christianity. I see my mother, and she was so lifted by those songs that she spontaneously went up and did her eulogy. Of course, the eulogy was, and I helped him give his heart to the Lord. He gave his heart to the Lord. Y'all know he got saved before he died, so he went to heaven. So she was giving her story. Okay, Mom. But the whole thing was very uplifted by the songs. And I became aware that it's like I saw through the eyes of Source that no matter which path anyone takes, because sometimes when we're awakened, we're like in a hurry to tell everybody that their religion is wrong. You know what I mean? But some people came here for the religious experience path to joy, you know, and I saw that and I experienced it. I was like, here I am. I am very awakened, but I'm singing a gospel song and I'm feeling connected to the greater part of who I am because of this song. I'm feeling joy because of this song. And in my heart, I knew I was seeing it's okay for people to be a Christian and to be religious and to find their joy through that path. My mother finds a tremendous amount of joy in the gospel songs that she sings. And I was there singing those songs with her sometimes at home. And even now she'll call me and she goes, Allison, I was just dancing to this song. And she'll start singing it and I'll start singing it with her. And it was totally fine. You know, I wasn't there going, I'm not into this, I'm too awakened. You know what I mean? It's like, suddenly I knew what it was like to experience, again, because I experienced joy when I was a Christian too, in Christian services. Of course, I experienced a lot of fear of hell too, but that's beside the point. But I experienced a lot of joy, and I went right back into that joy, you know, and I realized no matter which path people take, it's okay if they're experiencing joy. And I don't feel like sometimes when we get awakened, we feel like we need to tell people that everything. And I did that in the beginning too. It's like, I have to tell them that all of this is a joke and all this is wrong and the Bible is a lie and da, 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 you know. And I didn't feel any of that. I literally joined the congregation in joy. And I looked around the room and I'm like, they're feeling joy. It's okay to feel joy that way too. I experienced joy my way, my awakened way. But it's okay to experience joy their way too, you know. And the Donnie McClurkin song is just, it still rings in my head, and I literally turn that song on even now, and I experience joy. And it's like, I am under the rock, and the rock is higher than I. Jehovah hide me, I am under the rock. And there's this upbeat, like, you know, and whenever I play that, I remember the joy that lifted the heaviness in the funeral, you know, and we were all dancing to that song. You know, it's like, it was just so, I just saw joy there. And it really woke me up to the fact that no matter what path people are on, let them live what they came here to live. My mother will probably never experience, I can't say that for sure, I don't know what's going to happen, but my sense is that she will die a Christian and feel her joy that way And that's totally okay. And when she calls me feeling her joy from talking to Jesus that morning, I'm going to support her in feeling her joy talking to Jesus that morning. I could talk to Jesus too. You know what I mean? It's like whatever path they take to experience joy in this lifetime, let them, and there's nothing wrong with it. So much we just so want to change people and wake them up and help them see an awakened perspective. Just let people live what they came here to live. And that really profoundly changed me in so many ways, just experiencing that, and that I could come back to my life here and still turn on that Donnie McClurkin Caribbean medley song and feel uplifted. Even though the actual lyrics isn't something that I resonate with, the vibe of joy I resonate with, People experience joy in different ways. Let them experience joy in whatever way they came here to experience it. Not everyone has to have a spiritual awakening, and we have to respect that and recognize that Source chose to come experience life as a Christian through this person, right? That's the choice that Source made, right? To come be this person experiencing this, I had a lot of learning to do on that in terms of the family dynamics as well, So let me see some of what you guys are saying here. In my family, people tend to over-prepare. My uncle has bought 3 places in a cemetery. He can only go in one of them spots. For him, his wife, and his son, although everybody was still alive. Hey, if that's what preparation feels like to them, that's what preparation feels like to them. Nothing wrong with that. Nada Crown, totally agree. I love the energy, so I don't mind attending services for the energy. Yeah. The minute you start preaching at me, I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I tell me preaching hell and damnation, which they love to do at funerals. It's like, no. When you die, make sure you go to heaven. Where are you with the Lord? There was that too. And I sat through it. I'm like, I didn't feel any negative energy. I was like, he's doing what he came here to do, which is preach the gospel. That's what his incarnation came here to explore, what it's like to be a Christian pastor preaching the gospel. Nothing wrong with that, White Afu, so true. My brother is like, listening to gangster rap makes me happy. Hey, that's what he came here to do. And that's how I am in the world. This is what they came here to do. Who am I to sit in judgment of that? This is what they came to explore, gangster rap songs. For some reason, Source thought it was a really good idea to incarnate through this person and listen to gangster rap songs. There's still Source manifested in human form. We don't want to think that and trust and believe. I'm about to tell you some stories, but we don't want to believe that when it's something that goes against what we want to, that doesn't feel resonant for us. But always know everyone is here to experience what they're here to experience. They're not here to experience what you came to experience, I try not to roll my eyes. I know. I do too. Try not to roll my eyes. Sitting there in the funeral and he preaching hell and damnation. And I'm like, this is me. Just let it be, Allison. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to family dynamics because some really intense family dynamics played out for me while I was, actually before I was there, because you get into arguments over how to care for the person that's sick and what's the best level of care. So there was arguments over that. And then when my dad passed, there were arguments on why didn't we get him to a better level of care. And there is some evidence that there was hospital neglect that actually contributed to his funeral, to his death, that he probably would have been alive if they didn't neglect him in the way that they did. Because he was fine when he went in there. He was just dehydrated. That was it. He was dehydrated. For some reason, he stopped eating and drinking, and he was dehydrated. And so they had him on food and he still wasn't eating and drinking, even though he was there for a month. But some other things went awry, and we do believe that it's hospital neglect that actually contributed to his death. But from an awakened state, no one dies before they're ready to. before their soul is complete with this experience. Every soul chooses when they're going to die. So even though it may look to us like something went wrong, because we see that if somebody is murdered, if somebody, some injustice happened to somebody, we always see it as they died before their time, especially if somebody dies young. My dad died when he was 97. So for most people, they're like, oh, that's okay because he was 97. But if you die anytime before you're 50, everybody thinks you died before your time. But every soul chooses their exit path. Every soul chooses how they're going to die. So no one dies before their time. No soul exits the body unplanned. It's well known to your soul when you're going to exit your body. It may not be known to you in your, living behind a veil of forgetfulness and not remembering that your soul made a choice to come here and live for a certain amount of years or whatever. Even when children pass and the children have different experiences, we see it through our human lens. So it's very hard for us to see that they may have chosen to exit at this time. May not necessarily meant to exit through this particular path, but they meant to exit at this time. My understanding is that all souls have many exit points when we get here. I can exit this way, I can exit this way, I can exit that way, I can exit this way. And at the point of death, your soul can decide to bounce back, come back, or nah, I'm done. Right? That's what happens with a lot of near-death experiences, which are purposefully happening to wake us up on this planet. But everyone chooses when to go, and that was confirmed in the mediumship session that I had, which I'll tell you guys about shortly. But my dad confirmed, yeah, they messed up, but I'm fine. I was ready to go anyway. So White Staff was saying, one NDE I read, she said that when she looked back at her life, there were multiple exit points, and there always are. 25 years ago, I attempted suicide more than once. I was trying to create an exit point. Hey, I'm ready to go. Y'all heard that story. I was knocking on death's door and my divine team said, don't answer the door. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. In 2019, she'll be on camera telling people about it. It will actually feel funny, and I could have exited at that point, but my soul said, no, girl, you got some other things to do, honey. You're going to be sticking around, even though you're trying to get out of here. You're not gonna. So every soul chooses when they are exiting. Nada Crayon is saying, I had an interesting conversation with someone about an abortion. Does the soul decide not to experience life? Even with abortions, we think everyone's doing something wrong. From an eternal perspective, nothing has gone wrong. Know that you're seeing it through your human eyes. There's a soul that came to see what was it like to be in utero. Okay, that's all I want. I ain't going all the way into human life. No, I just wanted to see what it's like in utero. I'm good. And we on the other side are going, what a horrible decision the person is making, taking the life of a baby. And, we have all of these judgments and things like that. But the soul makes the decision. The mother is influenced to make the decision to have the abortion, but the soul isn't cut short in any way. The soul knows what's up. The soul knows, I just want to experience utero. I just wanted to experience utero. That's it. I just wanted to make a smidgen of utero and I got to go. I ain't trying to come into full life. No, that's too hot over there. Some of that's happening too, and we can't see that because we're in this human perspective. We have the human lens on, so we can't see it any other way. But from a soul's perspective, no soul goes before their time, So yeah, many times the soul decides not to experience life. That is also what happens in stillbirths. And from a human perspective, that's heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, terrible, horrible, that a mother would spend 9 months, nurturing a newborn. And then at the time of birth, the newborn does not survive. That's tragic from a human perspective, but also not a surprise to the soul that's within that body. Oftentimes that very same soul will come right back to that parent and come through a different incarnation that does live and that does survive. They already had the experience of, exiting at birth, and now they're coming back through another child. And sometimes that happens as well. Nada Kran is saying, Oh no, there's JC Morris saying there's peace in learning to let go. Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. Yeah, there's no surprise to your soul. Surprise to your human form, right? But there's no surprise to your soul at all. So let me talk about my family dynamics here. And before I left, family dynamics were playing out at different levels. So I'm going to play for you a conversation I had with my Define team. It's about 5-6 minutes long about my family dynamics. And then I'll tell you what, this is before I got on a plane and went to Trinidad, okay? But let me play that for you. Let me tell you what was happening before that. I was laying in bed and my Divine team was just pouring out beautiful, such beautiful words of support for me in what was happening in my family dynamics at the time. So I'll play for you. So that's the backdrop. I was literally laying in bed in the darkness under my covers, just going, wow, and then I grabbed my phone as I often do. And I said, I have to record this and let me share for you what they said, because some of you experiencing family dynamics of your own, it might actually help you there. But then I'll tell you what happened next.
So I just want to tune in today to re-tap into all of the beautiful words of encouragement and truth that you had for me earlier when I was asking for you to help me exit the mist and the fog of this human experience with regard to my siblings and my mom. And I just love what you said. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything is as it should be. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything is as it should be. Is there more? Trust the process of living this human life. Everyone is here to live it in their own way. Everyone is having experiences. Everyone is having experiences. You need not fear for the experiences that others are having. Everything is as it should be for the expansion experiences of everyone involved. Everything is as it should be. Look within it for the golden nuggets of expansion, growth, and awareness that is there for you. For everyone that touches your life, everyone that you are connected to, no matter what your experiences are with them, within those individual connections, even the ones that may seem frustrating and trying, within it, within those connections, within each connection is an opportunity for you to become more aware, to see the connectedness beyond family connections. See the connectedness that you are. You're all one, remember? You're not brother, sister, 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 mother, daughter. You're actually all one. Take a moment to reflect on the fact that you are one. So to hurt one would be to hurt oneself. To hurt any one of them would be to hurt one's own self. You're one. You're not just connected as a family. You're connected as a whole. Always remember that greater connection, and always remember the greater purpose of what is playing out We know that it's so easy to get caught up in the humanness of it all. But remember, everything that's playing out has a purpose. Look for the higher level purpose in all of it. Escape as much as you can the density of the moment, the density of the experience, and rise above into the grander awareness. See into it. See how it's here to serve you in your own awareness. You need not be looking for what it's there for each of the others involved, but for you. See the higher purpose. See your connectedness. See. You have the ability to see beyond what others around you see. So come into that awareness. Exit the density and the form and the human play, and see why it's here to serve you. See how it's here to serve you. See the greater purpose for everyone involved, including yourself. See the greater purpose. Rise into your divinity and to your awareness as a divine being rather than the form that you are currently inhabiting. Be the light. Be the light. And this is our message for you today. In love, we say, be the light, Allison. Be the light, beloved. We love you. Be the light. Be the light. We are here to be the light through you as well. Be the light.
That was it. Be the light. Be the light. Now, I wish I could tell you that I got on the plane, landed in Trinidad, and was beaming the light, but that ain't what happened. But I had that in the back of my mind the entire time, even though things were playing out in a way that I didn't anticipate. The fun thing was I wasn't like in any of it, but was being pulled to take sides on different things that were playing out, and still am being pulled to take sides on different things that were happening. But from an awakened perspective, I could see why everyone was experiencing what they were experiencing. But there were times when I would get caught up in the tornado. Anyone ever get caught up in the tornado of family dynamics? In the whirlwind of family dynamics, where you go, I'm not going there. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay in my awakened state. I am not going there. And then it plays out. And then you go, listen, here's what you're not going to do. Okay. And you go, how did I do that? Why did I say that? Oh my God, I cannot believe I went there. I cannot believe. How did I go there? I had such an intention to not go there. Anyone? Am I the only one? It didn't happen often, but there was some moments that were not Allison being the light at all. Okay. Because some things catch you off guard, but there were lessons in it for me. When I gave myself the space to move out of the stories, because honey, there were stories. The stories are limitless. And so for regular human dynamics, everyone wants to tell the story. And everyone wants to relay what's happening from their perspective and why they have the opinion that they did and why they're making the decisions that they did and how can I not understand that these decisions, And so it's an it's you can get caught up in there, man. And I had a conversation, more than one, with and then you could see how everything is playing out. It's so interesting because I could watch. This is all between my mother, my brother, and my sister. Okay, my older sister has passed, but I could see the dynamics of why they're experiencing why they're experiencing. The thing that they're choosing to focus on is exactly what they're experiencing, and I was crazy enough to join them in focusing on the thing, and then I got tangled up in the whirlwind and the tornado, and I'm like, what is happening? Wait, wait, let me off. How did I get in here? Let me off, you know. But once you get into that whirlwind lesson, y'all, once you get into the whirlwind of what they're focused on and you're choosing to focus on it with them, now you in it. Now you in it. Okay? And once you get in there, sometimes it takes a little while. It's kind of like shutting off the wall switch for a ceiling fan. After you shut it off, it's still spinning a little bit. And I got all up in that tornado for a little bit there. I got all up in that tornado, okay? And Allison's not the most docile person on planet Earth. So when I get all up in something, my feistiness takes over. And so it wasn't pretty, okay? It wasn't long, extended periods of time or anything, but there were some pretty heated conversations that I was a part of. And didn't like what I looked like in those conversations. Short, brief, but very fiery because I'm fiery. Okay. I don't know how to, well, I shouldn't say that. I'll say more about that in a second, but I have a very fiery side, and that fiery side played out in more times than I cared for it to play out. Leslie is saying, sometimes I get caught up in it in a split second and then it snowballs into this drama. Yeah, exactly. It's like, here's what's happening. It's like nothing was really happening with regard to me. Okay. Mother, brother, sister. Nothing was happening with regard to me. I was like an innocent bystander looking out. And then I decided to dip my toes in to just say a few things. Dip my toe in to say a few things. And there I was. Like, wait, this isn't about me. Why am I in this? So stay out of it, man. Stay out of it. The invitation is very strong, but I'll share some things that I personally learned in all of it. I have to be honest with you, and I'm about to play another audio from my divine team as well. This one is a little bit longer, but I think it's pretty powerful and worth listening to. After having those heated moments, I don't go into self-condemnation much at all. You know, I rarely ever do, because I see life as everything plays out just for us to experience it and for us to see things differently. It's all happening for us, not to us, right? But the thing that gripped me the most in terms of lower energy is, how did I let myself get here? How did I let myself utter those words? How did I let myself be a part of this conversation at all? You know, and I went into some self-condemnation on that myself. But I'll tell you, well, I'll explain to you first. Well, I'll tell you a little bit of how I got out of it. Well, let me see. Yeah, I'll tell you how I got out of it. But because it's different for me every time. You know, I don't get out of lower energies, dense energies, negative emotions. I don't get out of it the same way every time. It's wherever I'm at. My divine team meets me where I'm at and gives me what I need to get for that moment. So I'll share with you how that unfolded, because that was beautiful in and of itself. But one thing that I will say, no matter where you are, if you could think of any situation right now in your life that's unfolding where you're like, why is this happening? Why am I here? You know, a better question to ask is, what is this here for? And I got to the point, sometimes you get to the place where the energy is so dense that you just ready to surrender. It's like, I can't feel this anymore. And I'm not used to feeling, you know, lower dense energy much at all. I'm usually a pretty high flying person. So whenever I'm in a lower dense energy, it's like really hard for me to accept that I'm there, not really hard to accept, but it's just really hard to be there because I've been flying high for so long, So when I'm there, it feels like I can't stand it. It's like I can't stand feeling like this. But the questions I ask is, what is this here for? And another question is, because everything is here for you, not happening to you. The minute you see it's happening to you, you completely miss the opportunity to see what it's here for. So I kept asking, what is this here for? Show me what I'm not seeing that got me here. What is it that I'm not seeing? Show me what I'm not seeing. Because anything that's happening that feels contrary to what you feel like you want to experience in the moment, there's something you're not seeing, and fighting it sometimes just, you got to surrender and just go, show me. Just show me what I'm not seeing. Show me what I'm not seeing. And most importantly, because when family dynamics is playing out, it's real easy to see the error of everyone else's ways. And I had to move from focusing on the error of everyone else's ways and go, wait. What's happening here? What's happening here? What's going on within me? What's happening here? And I'll share now with you how I got out of the tornado of stories. I call it the tornado of stories because every time I got on the phone with my sister or conversed with my brother or my mother, I just got sucked into the stories again, right? First, you have to let people know that you're really not interested in the stories. They're not going to like you for it. They're going to think that you're avoiding something and that you don't want to deal with the issue, yada, 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 yada. Doesn't matter what they think. You have to make a choice for you, So one of the things in how I soothed my way out of it, and you don't really have to soothe your way out of it. You can just kind of, live through it, the number one thing is I stopped trying to get out of it because I was like, let me listen to something positive. Let me do something to get out of this low vibe that I'm in right now. And suddenly I realized, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything about this. I can simply sit here and observe what's happening within me. I can sit in the seat of my soul and watch what's happening in my human form. I could watch the dense energies playing out. I could watch my mind do gymnastics, mental gymnastics over this issue. I can just watch it. I don't have to do anything. I can just watch it play out. And I got real still. And I moved to the seat of my soul. And I saw what I needed to see. When I moved to the seat of my soul, all of a sudden, peace replaced the mental gymnastics and the worry and the little bit of self-condemnation that I had going on. And it's not your human self watching your human self. It's literally moving to the seat of your soul and viewing this experience from the perspective of your soul and your eternal being. That's very different than you just studying yourself from a very human perspective. When you move to the seat of your soul, something happens. You can no longer feel turmoil. You can see the turmoil happening, but you can't feel it from the seat of your soul. You can watch it play out within yourself. You can watch your mind go crazy, but all of a sudden it starts to slow down because now you're not a participant in what's arising in your mental state. You're just watching. You become the observer and you're just watching it. So what was happening is every time a thought entered my mind, I was like, yeah, and the reason why I said that was right? So now I'm a participant in everything that's arising in my mind. Every time it arises, my mind said, hey, remember this? Yeah, I do remember that. And that was not right. And right? And I'm not saying this out loud. My brain is saying it all, right? And then my mind says again, and remember what she said? I'm like, yeah, I do remember what she said. And she's not going to talk to me that way. And she's not, right? All this is happening, right? And every time your mind throws up and, burps up another thought about what just happened, and you latch onto it and start mentally processing it, you're in emotional turmoil again. But you can literally watch your mind burp up a thought. You could watch your mind try to latch onto it. You could watch your human self do all of that and still be in this amazing place of peace because you have chosen to not participate in the mental gymnastics of your mind. You could choose to participate. You could choose to not participate. So I recognized in that moment, and know also, I want you all to really hear this. At every step of the way, your divine team is going, all right, give her this, give her that, send her this, inspire her with this, plant this thought in her head, give her this song to play. Your divine team is ceaseless because you're asking for help. You're asking for help, and I was, but I wasn't in a place to receive it because it was just playing out, okay? And I couldn't receive it as readily as I normally would. But from that place of just observing, because we think we have to like do a process to get out of this, and you can. There's nothing wrong with doing a process. But suddenly I realized, I don't have to do anything. I can just watch all of this play out within my being and know that I'm not this physical form. And it's just all very interesting that this is how this physical form processes things at times. And it's interesting that this physical form gets caught up in the drama sometimes. It's interesting that this physical form sees the situation from a very human perspective at times, knowing fully well that I'm actually not this physical form and I'm this eternal being having this very human experience. And sometimes it's so interesting how much we could get caught up in it. And I can watch it from the seat of my inner being because, and this is always true, it doesn't matter what flavor of lower vibration you're in. The only reason you're there, I don't care what stories you made up about it. Write this down, put this everywhere in your house. There's only one reason that you are there. It's only one reason we're there. We are not seeing this the way Source sees it. We're not seeing it the way our inner being is seeing it. We're not seeing it the way our eternal being is seeing it. That's the only reason. You can make up all the stories. No, it's because she did this and he did this and she said that and he said that. No, you are feeling that lower vibration because you are not experiencing the situation from the way your higher self, your inner being, your soul, your spirit, source energy, infinite intelligence is seeing it. And the minute you don't see it the way your inner being is seeing it, you feel that discord. Because now both of you are here and one is seeing it this way and one is seeing it that way. And you feel that internal struggle and that discord because you're not seeing it the way your soul is seeing it, the way your higher self is seeing it, the way your inner being is seeing it. You're not seeing it that way. And that's the only reason we experience all of the lower emotions and drama, everything that we say, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the situation, the players and the story, I get all of that. But at the end of the day, it's only because you're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. I wasn't seeing it from the perspective of Source. So that level of expanded awareness, I could only get to when I got still. And at the time, I wasn't calling it stillness. It just dawned on me, thanks to my higher self, my divine team, saying, remind her to just watch. And I went, oh, right. I don't have to process this. I don't have to try to get out of this. I don't have to find a way out. I can just watch what's happening. I can move to the seat of my soul and just watch what was happening. And in the stillness, a few things happened. I was directed to this audio. If you were in the Playground of Desire, you heard this one. And yes, the Playground of Desire is going to be released this week at AllisonPhillips.tv/desire. It's done. I'm ready to put it out. I just have to shoot a video describing it, and then we'll put it out. But this is one of the audios from the Playground of Desire, and I can't remember what we were talking about that this audio was part of it. But I'm going to share, this was one of the ways that I breathed and I came out of it. But this was beautiful. So I'll play this and then I'll tell you what happened. The other thing that happened as well, as a result of being still enough to be able to receive the way out. Okay. Not that we ever have to get out, because you're just having experiences anyway. What was my path out of this experience and into other more expanded, more awakened experiences? So I'll play this one. Now, this one is about 14 minutes. So it's a little bit lengthier, but beautiful nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then I'll come back and tell you what else unfolded from the stillness, what else I was able to receive from the stillness. And I breathe to connect. You guys have heard this before.
Good morning, team. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Been a few days since I've had a specific conversation with you. I mean, you're always present, and I'm always aware of that presence. But it's been a few days since I've actually sat and recorded us chatting together. Thank you for reconnecting. Thank me for reconnecting is probably more appropriate. What is your message for me today as I begin my day? What we most want for you to know is that this journey of expansion, this journey of steady evolving, steadily becoming more of who you truly are, steadily becoming more aware of that which you are, is why you came. You knew that it would be fun. You knew that it would be exciting. You knew that it would be immensely satisfying. Every step, every twist, every turn, every what you call mistake, every moment that feels exhilarating, every moment that feels not exhilarating, every moment that feels low in vibration. You chastise yourselves for those lower moments, but it's why you came. You came to explore it all. You came to traverse it all. You came for the ebb and the flow, the ups and the downs. You knew that it would be exhilarating, a ride that was exhilarating, so very colorful. So very multi-experiential. You knew that it would be very thrilling, and that's why you came. And we know that you have forgotten that you made a decision to be here and to experience it all. So we're here to remind you all that all of the experiences that you're having, your soul is very much aware of the probability of you experiencing all of those things. From the location of your birth, the parents that you chose to come through, and all of the experiences that they would bring into your experience after birth, all of it we knew you were going to experience. You knew you were going to experience. So given the place of your birth, the timing of your birth, the parents that you chose, the way in which they raised you, all of those created a landscape of probability, probable experiences that you might step into. And whatever experience you're in right now is one of those probabilities, given how you were raised and the experiences that you had in all of your former years. We want you to understand that all of this is included in the exploration you meant to have. It's all included. For we see you seeking all of the higher vibrational experiences, and we know that that's immensely satisfying. But we want for you to find some degree of satisfaction in the journey of becoming aware of certain aspects of your being that is unsatisfying, and then making your way through and out of those experiences into those higher vibrational experiences. You came for the journey from one experience to another. When you become much more aware that you came for the journey of one experience to another, then it won't be so devastating. When you have experiences that are of a lower vibration, surely we are not saying to spend most of your time in those lower vibrations. We're just wanting you to know that the lower vibrations and the higher vibrations, the ebb and flow between lower vibrations and higher vibrations is actually the exhilarating ride that you wanted to have. If you wanted only high frequency experiences, you would not have come into physical form in your world, in this dimension, in this earthly plane. It is filled with a plethora of colorful experiences. You wanted to experience what it would be like to have tears flow. You wanted to experience what it feels like to be hugged and held, and to not be hugged and held. You wanted the contrast. You wanted that. But we know when you are here and you've forgotten your eternal state of being, you wonder why you are in certain circumstances. And we're not saying to get comfortable with the circumstances that are of lower vibration, because you have the ability, you were born with the ability, it is innate for you to find your way out of it. It is innate for you to find your way out of it. But remember, that requires that you remove your focus from that which is unwanted and choose a different channel to watch, a different focus. And yes, we know that this feels challenging at times because of the momentum that has built up around the thing that is unwanted. But we want you to come back to the knowing that it is innate for you, the ability to remove your focus from one experience and focus it on that which is wanted is actually an innate ability for you. We invite you to become still and choose a different focus. We also do want to address how much time you each spend beating yourselves up for being in those lower vibrations. What we want for you to experience is when you're there, just see it as an indicator of where you are now, giving you the opportunity to move to a different place vibrationally. We see you chastising your own selves, being disappointed with yourselves. And we want you to know that when you're there, all we are flowing to you is love and acceptance and admiration. We know what you chose to come experience, and we know that it can feel challenging at times. But in those challenging times, how does it serve you to add self-deprecation to the experience? How does it serve you to add self-judgment to the experience? If you're already in a situation that is challenging, why then, beloved, add such things as self-judgment and self-deprecation to the experience? We invite you to add love. Find the part of you that feels the love that you are and apply love to the situation. Apply love to the situation. That is what we're flowing to you. But when you're in that lower vibration, it is difficult for you to feel the love that we are flowing. But know that we're flowing love to you in those times. We have no judgment for you. We have only love and admiration for what you have chosen to come explore. Find the love for yourself and for others when those lower vibrations are at play. For it is only temporary. It is only temporary. Yes, there are times when you extend the experience for longer than it serves you, but even that is temporary. And in many cases, you're extending the experiences by adding the self-judgment and self-deprecation. So let go of that. When you're in those lower vibrations, love yourself. Feel the love that we are flowing to you. Feel the embrace that we are flowing to you. For we know that this is quite normal in the experience that you've chosen to come have here. Feel the love that we are flowing to you. Feel how much understanding is flowing to you in those moments. We are here with you, flowing love, flowing understanding, flowing appreciation for all that you've chosen to come explore. We are here. We are here. We are here with you. In conclusion, we want to share that all of what you're experiencing is what was probable when you knew you were going to hop into physical form again. You knew that all of it was probable, and you also knew that all of it was temporary, and you also knew that all of it you would be able to handle. Yes, we know sometimes it feels like you're not handling it, but even that is part of the experience. Love yourselves through it. That's what we are doing, is loving you through it all. Look for the learning, the growth, the greater awareness, the expansion in it all. Remember, that's why you came, for the journey. the more you are able to embrace it all as a very temporary yet incredibly enriching experience, the more you expand, the more aware you become, and the less challenging it feels. This is so very temporary, beloved. So very temporary. We know your lifetime can feel incredibly lengthy, but it is so brief and so very temporary. Even if you live to the age of 120, when it is complete, you will look back and know just how temporary this is. So as much as you can, embrace the full journey, not just the high points, not just the high vibrational experiences, but embrace it all as the journey that you came to explore for a very, very brief period of time. And know that all we are flowing to you is love and understanding. Love and understanding. We hold no judgment for you, and so we invite you to hold no judgment for yourself. And this is our message for you today.
I'm just going to sit with that for a little bit. In the stillness, I was guided to go listen to that audio because the thing that had me feeling the lowest was self-judgment, knowing that I could have done better. Now, Oprah had that saying, when you know better, you do better. Well, I knew better and I didn't do better. So a lot of the reminders that they were sending to me, I know it was beautiful for me too. That felt like a soothing balm, just listening to that again. And a lot of what comes through, those of you who are in the playground of desire, half of those 14 hours of our time together was just conversation with spirit. But I don't remember once it's done, and I don't like put them somewhere. I don't put audio somewhere and pack it up to go back and listen to it. Once it comes through me, I'm done and I move on to the next thing to create. But they guided me right back to that. And I was like, that was just what I needed to hear, that, and not only for me, but I started to look at my family members and realizing that they're acting out of the filters of their own experiences, and the choices that they're making and the things that they're saying is coming from where they currently are right now, and that source has no condemnation for them either. That's hard for us to see when you see what you think is just wrong. How could source not have condemnation for this? But the same is true for them as well, is that source has no condemnation for them. And what they're saying is all they're flowing to us is love and understanding. I understand how being in human form and having this experience might cause you to react in this way. We understand. We understand. And so I started to feel more understanding for where each of my family members were. It's like, I understand. And again, I couldn't receive the impulse to go listen to that if I stayed trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. What got me to receive that impulse to listen to this was just being the observer of what was playing out within me, rather than trying to act on it, do something about it, respond to it mentally, emotionally. I just watched it all play out. And the watching creates space, creates stillness. I didn't have the intention to be still, but I definitely had the intention to simply observe and do nothing. And that gave birth to stillness, which then gave birth to my ability to receive what my divine team was pointing me to that would be of benefit to me. The other thing that they pointed me to out of the blue is the meditation that I have in the downloads area of my website. I hadn't listened to that in quite a while, not since I actually put it out into the world. But right then, I knew they were pointing me to that meditation. And that was a meditation to release dense energies. What I didn't mention is when I came back, while I was in the swirl of all of this, for some reason, I couldn't see very well out of this eye. And I didn't understand what was going on. Now, most of you would run to the doctor, but I know all forms of illness comes from some energetic imbalance, right? Nothing wrong with going to the doctor, and I would have gone if I felt the impulse to do so. But I literally couldn't see much at all out of this eye. Felt like there was a huge cloud over my eye. I'm like, what now? I don't wear glasses, I don't wear contacts, but if I don't get enough sleep, my vision suffers for whatever reason. But I was sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. I'm like, why can't I see out of this eye? And I was like, I can't see, what is happening? And then I suddenly had the thought, is my vision being impaired by how I'm seeing what's happening in this situation? I don't know if that's true. I haven't had a conversation with my divine team about it. But for some reason, that came to my mind in the moment when I was guided to do that meditation that's on my website. Now, some of you have heard when I put that meditation out there, it was really only for transmuting dense energies, which is what I was in. And then someone wrote to me and talked about her healing from the meditation. I have used that meditation for healing as well. But in that moment, I was thinking about the dense energy, not my eye. And then I went, oh, wait, I've used this for healing before. And I've used this for transmuting dense energies before. So I closed my eyes, laid in my bed, and played that meditation. And I cannot tell you how, I cannot begin to tell you how perfect the words of that meditation was for me in that moment. I had forgotten all the words because I was given that in a very low moment, and I put it out on my website. Some of you have it. I played it. And the words of that meditation, every word that I was speaking felt perfect. It opened me up in ways that I cannot even begin to explain. What happened when I began listening to the meditation, my entire body started vibrating. That's never happened to me before. Now, it's happened when I've been communicating with spirit and all that, but not from this meditation. But as I played the meditation, the music, the words, everything felt so synchronous and so perfect. My entire body started pulsating, and I couldn't stop. Like my body was just moving in the bed, under my blankets. I was just moving, and I didn't know why, but I just like, energy is flowing. I'm just going to move with the energy, right? I'm just going to let my body do what it wants to do. And my entire body started involuntarily pulsating as the meditation played. The other thing that happened was I started weeping as the words were playing in my ear. I literally started weeping. I mean weeping. And I had no idea why. But I'm feeling chills through my body right now. As the words continued to play, the words just felt like it was chiseling away at the density that had gripped me because of what was happening with my family. It literally felt like it was chiseling away at the dense energy. And then some point through the meditation, because that's a 10-minute meditation, some point through the meditation, it felt like a soothing balm all over me. And I put it on repeat because I was like, I don't know what just happened, but I want to experience it again. And I put it on repeat and I let the meditation play 3 times, so 30 minutes. And I had my eyes closed the entire time and did what it was guiding me to do, both for the dense energy and also for my eye. And then when the 30 minutes was complete and I was done weeping, I opened my eyes and I started giggling. I was like, I can see. My vision's back. I can see. And of course, I started crying. I was like, I healed myself again. I don't know what this was, but I felt everything just release. And I knew that that meditation did that for me before, but I had forgotten about it, right? Some of you have that meditation. It was a dual purpose. It bathed me in this just balm of, I just felt so soothed. Like every part of my being felt the words of that meditation, y'all. Let me tell you, if I only did that for myself, that would have been worth it to do it for myself. But I'm glad it's out there so other people can have it. But that completely changed me, completely changed me, and changed my vision. My eye was fine. I was fine after that. I just kept looking around the room because honestly, I felt like I had one eye that could see and one with a big old cloud over it. And I didn't know what was going on, you know? And of course, my brain's going, maybe it's a cataract. Maybe you're getting cancer in your eye. Maybe, you know what your head does, right? When things suddenly happen. And I just released it. And I opened my eyes and I said, I can see. I can see. Not only can I see physically just fine, but I could see what this entire situation was there for me to see. And I'm going to share with you what I saw, because a lot of you may be in family situations where you're not seeing what it means really. And I'll share with you what I saw once I was able to release everything. But before I do that, let me just check in with you all. That was such a great reminder. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome. Why do you think we forget to do the things that will help us when we get caught up in our inner and outer dramas? Life, it's what we came to traverse, just like that said. That conversation with my divine team that I just played explained that. We thought it would be really cool and really fun and really interesting to come on a roller coaster ride. Y'all have seen that video over at AllisonPhillips.tv / theme park. AllisonPhillips.tv / theme park. Y'all have seen that one. We came for the ride, man. We came for the ups and downs. We came for the ride. If we didn't want to ever forget, we wouldn't come be human. Right? We would not decide to come be human in human body, flesh, forget living behind a veil, forgetfulness, forget that we're actually eternal. We would not have come here. So all that we're experiencing is part of the journey. Oh, let me see what it would be to forget and then come back to remembrance again. Because it's delicious. When I sat with that meditation, it was delicious to come back out of that. And my soul came for that journey to experience the dip and then come right back out and go, oh, this is what it feels like to be out of it again. You know, we came for that. There's nothing wrong with the dips. There's nothing wrong with the ebb and flow. We came for the ebb and the flow. We came for the ebb and flow. That's what we came for. And when we're in those low points, we're like, right? But that's why my divine team was reminding us, no self-condemnation. We don't have that for you. All we have is love and understanding. We understand that you can go there because you chose to come here and have those experiences. So we forget because we came to forget. That was the point. Let's go into these bodies and forget that we're eternal, forget that we have all these things, and just enjoy the ride, you know? We came for the ride. We came for the journey. We came for the ups and downs. But when we're down, we forget that we came for that too. You know, that's why it was really good for me to re-listen to what they had shared with me earlier. I mean, why do we gravitate to this? Because we decided to be human. And in human form, we gravitate to that. That's why. And there's nothing wrong with that. We came for the ride. We came for the ride in the theme park. We came for the ride. Kimberly is saying, wish everyone knew and understood they can heal themselves and how to. Yeah. And we have that ability, you know. And there's nothing wrong with going to doctors. There's nothing wrong with, you know, seeking medical attention for anything. And if I felt inspired to do that, I would, you know. And there are many times that I've done self-healing on myself, you know. Nothing wrong with any aspect of how we heal ourselves. It's totally fine. Whatever you feel, if you feel in your heart, no, I think I need, like, there was one point in my life where I felt, no, going to the doctor would probably be the path of least resistance right now. There's too much fear in me on this. And I would have, and I have done that in the past. And there are times when I've experienced self-healing, you know, so nothing, it's all part of the journey, you know. And if I feel like going to the doctor in the future, I would. I always go to the energetic reason for why I'm feeling what I'm feeling in my physical apparatus first. But if I feel like my energy around it is too dense, then I would probably seek medical attention, or I would probably do something else. You know, I just go with the flow. I go with what my heart is telling me to do in the moment. There's no one way, you know. That meditation worked for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for anyone else. The person that wrote into me and said that she experienced this visceral shift in her physical body when she did the meditation. When I put the meditation out there, I put it out as a transmuting of dense energies. But I fully well knew that I was secretly using it as a self-healing tool as well. From just the words and the guidance that I was given with that, it just felt, I knew. So when she wrote in, I was like, busted! Somebody else is experiencing healing with this too. Might as well tell people, right? And I ended up doing I need to update that page where that meditation is on, because I did do I think it was a 1 hour live stream as well. That's not even talked about there. I did a 1 hour live stream focused on healing and different aspects of knowing that you are light, and what you can do with your awareness that you are light, which is one of the reasons I played that song at the beginning. When you know that you are light, not this physical body, your perception of what is possible changes dramatically. So let me now share 7 things that I became aware of when I let go of the drama and the trauma, right? And all of the different things that were playing out, and decided to see what this experience was here for me to see. So I wrote it down, and this is something I do often whenever I have some kind of difficult in quotes, because we make it difficult, experience. I always, when I ask, what is this here for? I always literally write down, what is this here for? And what's the growth and expansion in this for me? Because when we have issues with people, we focus on people. When you focus on you, something else shifts, right? So here are my 7 things. It's like, I thought each person in their role had to be a certain way. Let me explain that. Some of you have heard in the video that I did here on YouTube called What Happened Next. I talked a little bit, I think I talked a little bit about that. Yeah, I can't remember for sure. But we have our family members, and especially family, because that's what I'm focused on today. We have our family members in expected roles. So we, in our human minds, say, this is my mother. And therefore, if she's my mother, she ought to act in these ways. She ought to do these things for me. If she doesn't do these things for me, she's failing as a mother. Similarly, this is my sister. As my sister, she ought to do these things for me. She ought to have these desires that match mine. And if she's not doing those desires that match mine, then she's not being a good sister. Same for brother, right? Same for child. You are my child. As my child, that possessiveness we have as humans, this is just a soul that decided to use your body to come experience what they came to experience, by the way. but you can call it your child. But this is my child. And as my child, you are going to follow these rules and do these things. Now, I'm not saying, let your life and your kids be chaotic, but we have such a strong possession as parents that we can't even see the purpose of why they're here because we're so into our possessiveness, and in family dynamics, we kind of let it play out that way. This is my mother. And as my mother, how could you not, as a mother, how could you not do this? Right? As a sister. And my brother and my sister is getting very caught up in the role that they perceive my mother to be. And as my mother, you should be doing these things and these things. I'm not doing these things. And my mother is going, as a son, you should not be doing these things. And right. And so there's all this dynamics that's playing out. But in a more expanded awareness, they're not mother, son, brother, sister. They're just souls that signed up to do this dance with you, to do this little skit with you, to play out this little movie with you. You know what I mean? And I became so aware of that in the moment. It's like, oh, wait, so she's playing this role for him and he's playing this role for her and she's playing this role for this one. And now I see all the roles we're all playing, right? And what happens when we label a human being mother is we now give that a meaning. And that's what happens in our physical form. We go, you are labeled mother. And with the label mother, this is what this means. Now, we know that we're totally making up the meaning of mother when we look at different societal expectations. So in this Western society that I live in, there's the role mother, and it's supposed to look a certain way, right? And we give that role mother a particular meaning, and we have a certain set of expectations of that role mother. Now, for those of you in the Western world, in the US, if I said to you, you have failed as a parent if you didn't choose your daughter's husband for her, what would you think? And if I said to your child, you are so rebellious, you chose your own husband, how could you? That was the responsibility of your parents to choose that for you. Well, in one society, that's perfectly normal and expected of a parent. And as a child in those societies, you dare not try to choose your own husband as a woman. That's chosen for you. How dare you? That is rebellious as a child, right? So when we look at how different societies function, we know we're making up the role as parent and what its expectations are. We're totally making it up. Because when you move from society to society to society, everyone has their own rules and laws of what a parent should be, what a parent should do, what a child should do, what a child should not do, right? So I became very much aware that the labels that we give to humans, mother, brother, sister, when we use those labels and we adhere heavily to those labels, we also adhere very heavily to the expectations, right? And we give those roles meaning, right? It has a certain meaning in this society and it has a different meaning in another society, right? So I became aware that I was attributing meaning to brother, mother, father, sister. Not that we should be careless about each other and not care about each other. That's not what I mean. But I'm just letting you know that my greater awareness kicked in and I realized, oh, I'm expecting this because of what society has conditioned me to expect, right? The second awareness is we're all part of the one, but I was beginning to allow myself to fully know that again, right? We're all one. She's not mother, brother, we're all one. And even though you're seeing the error of their ways in this way or that way, know that he is also source incarnated in human form. And some moments I was like, I don't even want to think about that because you know what? I don't even want to think about that. I can't think. That's just, he's so wrong right now. I can't even think about that. I literally was there at one point, okay? But I came back to the knowing, oh, he is also source manifested. She is also source. Oh, these are the roles that we're all playing out in each other's lives. I see the purpose and the reason why it's playing out in the way that it is, you know? The other awareness was everyone is free to choose and create whatever they want to create. So I was jumping in defense of my mother, and then I stepped back and I went, oh, I don't have to defend her. She's not a victim. There are no villains and victims here. They're just human beings free to create the realities that they are creating. And I started looking at this going, oh, wait, so she's creating this reality with my brother, and my sister's creating this reality with me and my mother. And I'm looking at it as free souls who have complete freedom to create their own reality. And so I was stepping in going, no, this reality is screwed the hell up. Now, let me tell you why it's screwed the hell up and what you all need to do to fix this. And then I stepped back and went, no. They're each creating their own reality for their own experience here. It's none of your business, Allison. Step the hell out. Step the hell back. This is none of your business. They're each creating their own realities. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't say anything at all, but I was butting in where I just didn't need to be butting in. Okay, I just did not need to be butting in certain places. And so I became much more aware. These are souls with complete freedom to create their own reality. And the reality that my mother is creating with my brother is her reality with my brother, right? And I became aware that I just needed to step back, step out, and just allow them to have the experiences that they're having. Will I be a support and will I be a voice of reason at times? Sure, if I'm called to it, but I was trying to fix everybody. And don't nobody need to be fixed. Okay, so that was another level of awareness that I came to. I thought I was responsible for helping everyone to relate to each other in a way that was satisfying to me. I'm sorry, y'all not relating to each other very well, and I'm not real satisfied with that. So let me just help y'all fix your relationship with each other. Right? I thought I was responsible, since nobody had an issue with me until I butted in. Nobody had an issue with me, but I felt like since nobody has an issue with me, I'm just going to butt in and help y'all fix your issues with each other. I felt like for some reason I was responsible for that. I became aware that I was not responsible for that. Here's another one. This is big. I was willing to surrender my equanimity to be right. And being right is a freaking epidemic on this planet. Okay, that desire to be right. No. I can't keep my mouth shut because I'm right about this. I know I'm right. No, I see what's going on here, and I'm right. So let me let you know why I'm right and give you 3 backup reasons why I know that I'm right. And I was willing to surrender my equanimity. And what's equanimity? Peace in the midst of anything. But I was willing to surrender my equanimity to be right. Anyone else? Especially with family members, right? Not going to go there, you know what? I'm right about this. I really got to say something, right? And we feel like we have to say something because we are right. And my inner being, my soul, my spirit, my divine team said, there's a lot of things that aren't the way you think they should be, but it doesn't mean that you need to give up your peace, your equanimity, to step in and say something about this. Not always. Sometimes it's better just retain your equanimity and let things be the way they are. Because I wasn't stepping in from a place of higher inspiration. I was stepping in because I know I'm right. I know I'm right. And y'all don't know I'm right. So I'm here to let y'all know why I know I'm right. Let me just explain this to all of y'all, And we can get drawn in to wanting like we think being right means we have to say something. And we think we're always right. There's no right or wrong from an eternal perspective. That's a very human perspective that you're right. It's a very human perspective that you're right. And sometimes we have to let go of that need to be right. No, Allison, I'm right about this. So I'm going to say something because I'm right. Because that's where I was. I'm going to say something. It's what you're not going to do because I'm right about this. And let me tell you why I'm right. Because obviously you missed that. So I got to the point where I realized I thought it was a really good idea to surrender my equanimity to be right. And that was a huge point for me because I started looking at myself going, girl, you made that call. You initiated that call that went awry. And you initiated for one reason, to prove that you were right. Because you had evidence that you were right and you called to prove the evidence that you were right. And what do you do when you're proving that you're right about something that's wrong? You're focusing on the thing that's wrong and making it even bigger in your experience, you know? But we get all caught up in wanting to be right. And again, knowing that each person is playing a role in each other's experience. It's like, oh, so you're playing the role of this so that you could potentially see that you don't need this person. Like I saw them playing roles in each other's lives to wake up to the reality that you don't need the approval of a mother for you to be okay in life. You don't need the approval of a sibling to be okay in life. You don't need for a sibling to see you in a certain light that you deem positive versus negative. You don't need a sibling to see you in a certain light for you to be okay in life, right? It's that desperate need for the approval of another. And perhaps they're each playing those roles out for them to see that they don't need the approval of each other to be okay in life, you know? And lastly, I forgot that everyone lives through the filters of their own experiences. Everyone is living what they're living through the filters of their own experiences. They're having experiences that causes them to think this, or causes them to perceive life in this way, or causes them to perceive each other in this way or not. This is where I kind of let go of the right or the wrong, because everyone, even though I look at something happening and I go, that's just wrong, that's so wrong. That's so wrong though. But they're taking that action from a place of fear. They're taking that from a place of dependency on another. You know, they're all taking those actions from that place of dependency and needing the approval of another, or needing, I saw the desperation and the desperation for, I need you to think of me in a positive way, not a negative way. Otherwise, I'm not going to be okay. You know, I saw that playing out, you know, but everyone's living through the filters of their own experiences. And to judge another as right or wrong, if you lived in their shoes, if you walked where they walked, would you see life in the exact same way that you do having not done that, you know? And a lot of times we can rush to judgment and finger pointing and all of that when we don't see that they're simply doing the best they can from the filters of their own experience, you know? So I had to let go from that, you know? Yeah, JC Moore, you know, if you're on my email list, that's exactly what I got. I got a reawakening. That's what I shared with my email list. I was reawakened to things that I knew, but I didn't have to experience it with my family. Like if you talk to me about all of these things from the perspective of a romantic relationship, I got that. I got that down. You know, from a romantic relationship, I am so free in a romantic relationship. I don't need you to do nothing for me, honey. But I hadn't experienced it in a family dynamic. I hadn't experienced it in that way. I was laughing at myself the other day going, oh my gosh, at the age of 53, I discovered my whole family's dysfunctional. How did I just now discover this? Of course, humans by our very nature is dysfunctional, because I don't think there's a single human being on this planet that ain't dysfunctional in one way, shape, or form. But I'm like laughing going, I just discovered at the age of 53 that my family's dysfunctional. How the heck did I miss that for 53 years? But, you know, I can laugh at it now. Everybody's living what they're living. Everyone's living what they're living. So yeah, you're never done, JC Moore. You're never done with the expansion and the growth. This has given me such a renewed, like, I just never knew that I could renew my awakening in such grand ways. It felt like a grand renewing of what I know, what my soul knows to be true, you know? And that's why we came to have these experiences. I took that dip real hard. Okay, y'all, real hard. I took that dip and I came back out of that dip, and then it feels so good. And that's the journey our souls came for. And some of you may be in the dip going, I don't even see a way out. But there is a way out? What if that way out is coming right to you right now? You know, it was just so good for my expanded awareness to see things in that way. Has my family changed? Nope. All the same dynamics are still playing out, but that's not for me to look at. I look at, have I changed as a result of this? How have I changed as a result of this? And that's the purpose of it arising in my experience for my expansion, my growth. Yes, they have growth expansion opportunities galore in all of this as well, but their growth is not my responsibility and it's none of my business. It's what was this here for me for, you know? I'm a functioning dysfunctional. Exactly. We all are, right? I say not to be too, and not to offer too much language here, but I would say every single being is fucked the hell up. All of us, in one way, shape, or form. In one way, shape, or form. But hey, you know, we are what we are. It's never done. The awakening is never done. So now I'm gonna, unless you guys had any questions, let me pause here because I'm gonna end with my experience with a medium and then we'll be done. Any questions on your own family dynamics? Has this helped you in some way, shape, or form? What was the aha moment for you? Or any questions that you might have? I'll pause here and then I'll move on to my last closing experience with a medium, why I chose to hire a medium and how that went and how beautiful it was. So I'm just gonna pause and see if you guys have any comments, any commentary, any questions, anything. Some of y'all are probably asleep now because it's 3 a.m. your time. And I will leave this video up in unlisted format. So grab the link because it's not going to be listed on my channel, but it will be up. It will be an unlisted video, unlisted private. Well, not private. Private's different. It's going to be an unlisted video. So just grab the link to this and you'll have it, but I'm not going to leave it as a public video. Kimberly, I'm so annoyed by a coworker who works in a store but isn't nice to either the customer or coworkers. I think he should work somewhere else, and I don't know how to not judge. Any advice? Yeah, my best advice is that's none of your business. That's how I flow through life. I'm like, oh, this is interesting that they're living life in this way. You don't know how what you perceive to be injustice is happening. Like, he can't be, how did you put it? He can't be not nice to somebody who isn't a vibrational match to that. Like if I pulled up and my vibration is way high, happy, go lucky, but he cannot not be nice to me. Okay? Because he's not a vibrational match. He would have gone to the bathroom while I was going through the drive-through. You know what I mean? So everyone that's calling him into their experience in the way that he's showing up, they're a vibrational match to that. So instead of looking just at him, because he could be a very angry person and nobody actually shows up in his experience for him to be that way with them because everybody's happy, you know. But everyone that's showing up in his experience is a vibrational match to where he's at right then in that moment, you know. So it's not just his responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. It's interacting with him that's in that skit and in that play. And who knows? You haven't walked a mile in his shoes. You don't know why he's being the way he is, right? Nobody knows why he's being. You could stand outside and go, well, he's just not a nice person. Well, I was not a very nice person with my sister on the phone, okay, in that moment, okay? So you don't know the backstory of all that's happening. You don't know what's happening in his life, what's happening in his home, what's happening with whoever he's living with, what's happening in his finances that causes him to be the way that he is. So we can stand in judgment from outside of his story, but you're not in his story. You don't know. So that's what I say to myself. I don't know their whole story. Maybe they're angry because somebody died in their experience and they've been angry since that person died. Maybe they're angry because they were abandoned by a parent and that's why. I mean, you don't know what their stories are. You don't know. So when you see people acting out in that way, it's very good. Trust and believe. I know where you're at, where you can go, why you gotta be like that? You know, and we rush to judgment. But sometimes I go, I wonder what's actually at play in their experience for them to not be able to experience joy. You know, I wonder what's at play in their experience such that they're not able to allow that good feeling in, and I feel more compassion than judgment. Now, I can rush to judgment too, trust and believe. If I'm not in the right vibe, judgment, boom, But if you're seeing life and every human being as part of the whole, you look at them in a very different way, and you can look at them in the way that Source looks at them. Does it happen 100% of the time? No. I wasn't looking at my family members the way Source was looking at them for a little bit there. We all slip up. We all have these moments, especially. And if I could go there and I'm awake, okay, awakened AF, then how easy it is for someone else who's not, in that awakened state to succumb to whatever is causing his attitude to be what it is, Anything else? Anyone else wants to add before I go to the medium story? I'll go to the medium story. If you guys have more, I'll come back to it. So when I visited Trinidad, one of the things that happened is my brother-in-law, who is my deceased sister's husband, took me, let me see if there's more. I'm accepting that I am responsible for my own growth, practicing non-judgment as well. Not always easy now. Although, what I would suggest, which is what I suggested to myself, is to say, what if this is actually going to be easy for me from here on in? I started saying to myself, because I was saying to myself, gosh, with family, it's so much harder. It's like, why do I keep saying that? Why do I not say, with family or anyone else, I can maintain my equanimity. With family or anyone else, I never surrender my equanimity for circumstantial situations. You can say that and declare that. So you can also say, from now on, what if non-judgment is a really easy thing for me? What if I suddenly start seeing everyone as part of the whole, and so judgment doesn't even arise at all anymore, or it arises very rarely? What if I move into this place where judgment isn't necessarily how I live? Instead of saying that it's not always easy, you can actually declare that being non-judgmental is becoming easier and easier for me because I see people differently. Now. What if your family members are hurting themselves, bad lifestyles, drinking too much drugs, none of your business? And I know that's harsh to say, or come across as harsh. The reason I say it's none of your business is that you can't change them. And when you realize you are not responsible for another person's choices. Now, if you see your family member drunk on the street and they're about to step on a piece of glass, you're not going to go, none of my business, help them to the extent that you can help them, but from the place of knowing that they're choosing to have the experience that they're having. There's a book that was written by a mother called, now forgetting the name. A sister. It was written by a sister whose brother was a drug addict. He died and now she wasn't a believer in people being alive after they're dead, but he came back. He was a drug addict most of his life. Came back and talked to her, and I can't remember the name of the book. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, post the name of the book. But it was The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. And so he came back, and if you read that book, he said to her from the afterlife, that's what I came to experience. That whole life of being a drug addict is kind of what I wanted to explore while I was here for a little bit. Now, from our human spectacles, we're like, why the hell would any soul choose to come have an experience? Like, why would you leave the bliss of eternal state to come here and experience the trauma of being a drug addict? But that's from your human lens, right? And in that book, he shared a lot with her as to what impact he had intended to have. I read another book, or listened to another audiobook with a guy who had triplets. And one of the triplets was severely brain damaged. And for his entire life was hell on wheels for his parents. And he would challenge everything. And he would be it was constant challenge for them. He died. His father did not believe in life after death. He came to his father afterward and explained, my role in all of your lives was to help you see your dark side. Because when he emerged in his, rages and all of that, it would cause their dark side to emerge. And his role was for them to see their dark side. He said in the book, he said, when you think you are awakened, spiritual, highfalutin, put together, I will show up in the room and show you that you're not. And I will show you your dark side, because that's who he was. He was this child that was just very temperamental, and he would burst into rages, and he would say things at inappropriate times because he was severely brain damaged. And he explained to his father what his role was in their experience because of his outbursts and things that he was doing. From a human perspective, you would go, why would any soul come to be a severely brain damaged child? But we see things from a very human perspective. When you take the human spectacles off and you put on your eternal perspective, you tend to see more of what may be going on in certain circumstances where a sibling is a drug addict or a family member is a drug addict. I had a client who had a sister who chose to be homeless, and it was heartbreaking for them. And you help as much as you can, but from the awareness that they're choosing their own experience. So if you have an opportunity to help, to make a meal for them, to do something for them, go ahead and do that from compassion, but not from a place of judgment, and not from a place of they're supposed to be different in some way, because maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. Let's see what else is happening here. Hurting themselves. Okay, so you're talking about hurting themselves, drinking too much drugs. I mean, if you can help them not hurt themselves in certain circumstances, sure, go ahead and do that. But don't see yourself as their rescuer. Get into that place of stillness so you can know where you are being called to assist, and when you're not being called to assist. Come from that place of serenity, not from a place of concern and worry, and because you do different things from a place of worry and concern, and no matter what you do is totally fine. But when you're in that place of complete stillness of what am I supposed to do here? What's my role, and why is he playing this role in my experience? What is this here for me? It's kind of like with my family. Everything's still awry, but I'm going, why is this happening in my experience? What is this here for? It was for a reawakening of Allison, okay, in ways that I never thought possible. And I had experiences from this that I never saw coming, So you just never know. Okay, so White Siafu is saying, I'm also going through the learning of allowing others to have their own experience and not taking responsibility for it. Yeah. When seeing the suffering of others, I have a tendency to feel guilty that I am not suffering like that, or that my life is easier than theirs. I'm having to release the concept of privilege, as well as the concept of wrong. And I saw that too. I wanted to shake my siblings and go, do you not see your mental suffering is coming from your expectations, your unrealistic expectations here? And I want them to see that they can release their need for the approval of another. And, that was the biggest thing playing out for everyone, is that they need the other person to be different in some way for them to be okay. Not that you should stay in horrific circumstances or anything like that, but this is what was playing out here. This is all family stuff. You know what I mean? And there are times where I'm like, I'm going to stay in my happy zone. Y'all can keep doing what you're doing. And then I'll be like, well, maybe I should help them see that, And so there's some level of that played out for me as well. But yeah, you have to release and know that they're playing roles in each other's experience for a reason. And you're not the fixer of anyone. We're not the fixer of anyone. All right. So I came back. I'm going to move on to my mediumship experience. When I visited Trinidad after 20-something years, remember my sister passed a year and a half ago. And so I went back and I said to my brother-in-law, my deceased sister's husband, I just want to, my sister's here. And I'll tell you what I felt that made me know that she's here. Wow. Okay, girl. I said, I just want to be where she was. I just want to go be where she was. And my brother-in-law came to pick me up one day, and he was taking me all over the country visiting everybody, right? He was just having pleasure and going, ta-da, here's Allison. You haven't seen her in 20-something years, right? So there's all these people that we knew from church and stuff like that he was taking me to visit, which was a whole lot of fun. And then he took me home to where my sister lived. And I went into their bedroom, and I just wanted to be in the space where she was, because they still had some of her clothes, and they had her urn with her ashes from her cremation. That whole cremation thing, by the way, I got to the point where they were taking my father's coffin in for cremation because they cremated him too. I was a mess, y'all, emotional mess at the door of the crematorium where they were about to wheel my dad into the fire. And the sound of the fire. Well, let me tell you, that's, even though you know that body is not who they are, and he was talking to me, still that's a heavy thing. So they had my sister's ashes in the urn, and I just put my hand on it, and I just stood there, just being in the moment. And then her daughter came into the room and said, "We still have some of her clothes. Here it is." And I just went to the closet, and I was touching every piece of clothes that belonged to my sister. She's my older sister. I was just touching every piece of clothes that was hers. And I just stood there, just being in the moment. And in my humanness, trying to hold on to a piece of her, even though she's been with me since that time anyway. But just wanting to touch what she touched, and being in the human moment of it all. And her daughter came in, and there was this jewelry case with all of her jewelry, my sister's jewelry, still there in the room. And her daughter came in and opened the jewelry case, and she goes, "I always come in here to get, jewelry." Because that's her father's room, right? Her mother and father's room. She's like, "I always come in here to get jewelry." My mother always we always have to have these little spats over me coming in and taking her jewelry and wearing it and all that, right? And she took down a few different pieces of jewelry, and she was just showing it to me. And she used to love this one. She used to love this one. And then she said, "I'm going to give you a couple pieces of jewelry," her earrings, right? And as she gave me the 2 pair of earrings, I literally felt like my sister touched me. And they were chattering in the room because her husband had pictures of my sister on a slide thing that he was playing at the same time that we were going through her jewelry. And I literally felt her touch me. And my niece was chattering, "Oh, she's blah, blah, blah." And my brother-in-law was going through the pictures and some videos on screen with my sister. And I felt her, and I said, "You're here." And when I just stopped and I said, "She's here. It's right here. I feel her touch me right here. And I'm feeling her right now." And my niece gave me 2 pair of earrings to take back with me that were my sister's. This is a pair of them. This is 1 pair. And another pair from my other sister. And that was a moment that I could not forget. Being in the room, I'm pausing because she's telling me again, of course I was there, and I'm here now. And that was such a powerful moment for me. Same thing happened when I went into my dad's room. I sat on the bed, and I was going through, my dad was a fan of a ton of pictures, right? I was going through all these old pictures of my dad and just taking pictures of the pictures with my iPhone. And I was talking to him in the room, and I knew he was there. When I came, I'll come back to my sister's story in a minute. When I came out of my father's room, my mother and father lived in 2 separate rooms in the house. Whole story behind that. But that's how they wanted to live. So they were in 2 separate rooms. And they would visit with each other, but they lived in 2 separate rooms, which, by the way, is what I would opt for. Just saying. Because I like my space. But I was in my father's room. I just wanted to be in his space where he was. I just wanted to be there. So I sat in his room quite a bit, just by myself, going through his stuff, looking at what was in the room or whatever. And I left the room and I closed the door. And then my mom and I were going out, going to go, I don't know, we were going shopping or something like that. And my mom said, "Did you turn on the AC in your dad's room?" And I'm like, I don't even know how to turn on the AC in my dad's room, because he has an AC unit in the room. Because in Trinidad, they don't have central air. They have AC units in the rooms. So he had an AC unit. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was AC in the room. And she looked at me and I looked at her. And I was like, how do you turn it on? And she went into another room of the house and got a remote control. He's like, with this. And I'm like, but I didn't even know that existed. I didn't turn it on. She's like, odd. And she comes into the room and she clicks and turns the AC off. And then she went inside. She forgot something before we were heading out. Went inside, come back out. AC's on again. And she's like, you saw me turn it off, right? I was like, yeah. She goes, did you turn it back on? I was like, nope. And we're both staring at each other going, doo, 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 doo. I'm like, Dad's here. My mom, of course, the Christian. She's like, oh, don't say that. And when I left, she was like, I'm going to have to get somebody to pray over that room before, because she was going to go move into my dad's room. Going to get somebody to pray over that room. She was all freaked out because I said, Dad, it was Dad. Dad's making his presence known. I said, Dad's making his presence known to tell y'all to chill the hell out. Turning the AC on to tell everybody to chill the hell out with all this drama y'all are in. She didn't like that. Anyway, back to the mediumship story. So because I had that powerful, every time I talk about my sister, I feel it right here. I feel like somebody is pressing on my hand right now. And last night when I put these earrings on, I felt it again. And now I'm talking about her and I'm feeling it again. That was such a powerful experience in my sister's room with her husband and her daughter, and with the earrings and everything. I came back and I'm like, I want somebody to validate for me. And it wasn't that I doubted that my sister existed. It wasn't that I doubted that I'm silent, but I'm telepathically communicating with my sister right now. Wow. I know. God, you're making me cry. When I came back, that was such a powerful moment for me, feeling my sister, that I wanted validation. I was like, I want validation. I want validation. It wasn't that I didn't believe. I just wanted another person in human form to tell me what I already know. That's what it was. I wanted another person in human form to tell me what I already know. And so I came back, booked a medium. I didn't even look for a medium because I'm all these different podcasts where mediums are being interviewed anyway. So there was this guy that was interviewed on the podcast called We Don't Die. They're here on YouTube and also on iTunes. This guy called Spirit Artist or something like that. I forget what he's called, but I just happened to be listening to the podcast. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to book you. So I booked the session. And just before the mediumship session, I was getting ready for the session. And suddenly I had the thought, I talked to a lot of people who are dead. So I wonder, because when you book a mediumship session, any spirit can show up. Like, you can't control who shows up. You can have an intention for who you want to connect to, but you cannot control who shows up and what comes through, right? But I was like, just before the session, I was like, there's all of y'all that have been talking. I don't know who's going to show up. I mean, I really want my sister to come through, but there's so many people that my family members that have passed that I connect with, you know. I've literally had connection parties by myself with all of my deceased relatives or whatever, because I think it's fun to hang out and chat with the people that have gone. Well, they didn't go anywhere. They're still right here. Still right here. So just before the mediumship session, that's what happened. I was going in with the thought, I don't know who's going to bring through, because I've been talking to so many different people. There's my uncle that passed, my grandmother that passed, my first husband's mother that passed, my second husband's mother that passed, and I communicate with both of them. My sister who's passed, and now my dad who's passed, and I've communicated with all of these people, you know. So it's not new to me, and the mediumship session I didn't think was gonna be proving to me, because I already know, you know, from my own experience, I already know. But I wanted a human person in human flesh to say to me what I already know, for it to be more validating, you know. So the first thing the guy says when I come into the session, he goes, wow, you have a lot of people here. And I'm like, yep, don't know which one of them want to say something, but I'm open. Because when you go into a mediumship session, if you go holding too tightly to your agenda, like I want her to come through and prove this, and I want her to come through and prove that, you miss the openness and you miss who's going to come through. And there may be other much more important message for you to receive than what you intended, you know. So I knew that about a mediumship session. So I wasn't holding tightly to anything. To me, it was like I just brought somebody into the parties that I've been having, you know. It's like, let's bring the medium into the parties that I've been having so he can see everybody that I've been talking to, you know. And he goes, so the first thing he said was, there's a lot of people here, and I have to ask you, they're making a big fuss about you taking care of a lot of people. What's that about? And I was like, yeah, I have, you know, a YouTube channel. Now, he could have Googled me and find that out, you know, and made that up. I don't know. Because there's a little bit of skepticism in me anyway. But the skepticism went away after the entire session. But he was like, they're making a big fuss about you taking care of a lot of people there. All of them are clamoring about that. What's that about, right? And I was like, yes, I'm doing my work in the world right now is really assisting people with their awakening and, you know, helping them to understand their spiritual journeys and, you know, their walk through their own human experience in a more awakened way and all that. So I was explaining that, right? He goes, yeah, they're really into that with you, you know. And I'm like, that's pretty cool that they're all applauding what I'm doing in the world right now. Now, there's a ton of evidence that came in, right? But I'm only going to share with you the things that just was so confirming for me that I couldn't deny it. I just couldn't, there's no way he could Google what he told me, okay? There's some things he could have Googled because, you know, I have my little bit of skepticism, but there are other things there's no way he could have Googled. So when he described my father's death and passing exactly the way my father passed, in exactly the same issues that arose toward the end. He definitely nailed that. One of the things that he said about my father, he goes, I see a father figure, but he's very distant and very quiet. And I was like, I know exactly why. Because I kind of expected that to be the case because we didn't have a really close relationship, and there's all kinds of dad stories that were at play as well. But so I knew why he was being distant in the experience of the medium. So I didn't press it, although he did come through and talk to me as well. But I'll tell you the things that and sometimes when you get the inspiration to do something and you think you have your own intention, that's okay. But know that it may be there for a different purpose as well. So that kind of opened me up to the other purpose why I felt inspired to do this as well. But in terms of the confirmation, I remember looking at my sister's earrings and I said to her before the session, it would be really cool if you brought this up because that's where I felt you. And she did. He came through and he said, she's saying something about you having a pair of her earrings. And I just lost it at that point. I just was crying. I never thought I would cry because I mean, I know all of this already, right? But he said, she's talking about a pair of earrings of hers that you have. And I had it right there. And I was just crying in the session because that was so confirming for me, because that was the moment where I felt her touching my hand. And she has not stopped touching my hand the entire time I've been talking about her, okay? She's still here touching my hand. And I know some of y'all freaked out, like, oh my God, a dead person's touching your hand. They're not dead, though. They're not. That's why I'm cool with it, you know? And the other thing was, my sister was into a lot of crafts. She was a teacher, and she'd do all of these beautiful crafty things. She just had a crafty mind, right? And while I was there in her room, they were telling me stories about different things, right? But one of the stories they were telling me is that she got a ton of these butterflies, and they're plastic butterflies. And she plastered the wall of some room that she was teaching in with butterflies, right? And had some kind of activity for the kids or whatever. And so there was a bag of butterflies left in their room, in my deceased sister's room, that my husband still was holding on, her husband was still holding on to. And I took the butterflies with me. And the medium said, right after he talked about the earrings, he goes, and she's mentioning butterflies. Do you know what? I'm like, I'm done. So that was so perfect. But the other one, now, trust and believe, there was a whole string of all kinds of evidence about all kinds of stuff. The most unexpected thing was my first boyfriend, who died when I was 17. He and I were boyfriend and girlfriend when I was 16, I think. He died. He came through. I'm like, dude, why are you crashing my party? That was what I was like, what message could you possibly have for me? But the medium brought through my first boyfriend when I was 15, 16 years old, and he died when I was 17. Totally unexpected. That's why you never know who's going to come through. I was like, dude, why are you crashing my party? And then I realized, now get the connection. My deceased sister's husband is the brother of the first boyfriend that I had. And so when I was at their house, we had lots of lengthy conversations, one of which was how he died, and that he was my first boyfriend. And so that was active for me, and that's why he came through. Like, hey, I know y'all were talking about me. Just saying, right? My first boyfriend. Didn't expect that at all. And the last piece of evidence that was like, I was like, okay, she's here for damn freaking sure. There is no way he could Google this, right? A while back, well, I won't even tell that story, but in the mediumship session, he said, she's pointing to angel wings in your room. There's angel wings. Only me and my kids know that I have this pair of angel wings, right? Why I have it, I'm not even going to go into that story, but it was sitting right on top of this filing cabinet right here. And he pointed that out. And I'm like, all right, ma'am, you have confirmed everything for me. I'm good. Not that I wouldn't have believed that she's there anyway, but it was just incredibly confirming for me. Now, I was talking about sometimes you get the impulse to do something. I had the impulse to book a medium. Now, I know that I communicate with my deceased relatives. I'm good. You know, I don't need anybody to prove that to me. I know nobody dies. I know they're all here. I know the essence of them, because they're not like when I die, I'm not Allison for the rest of my eternal life. That was just an aspect of source that I manifested through. And I would happily allow you to connect with that manifested version of me and my craziness when I'm dead, you know, but I'll be off having other lifetimes as well, right? So it's not like it's the human person that's still communicating with you. They're allowing that aspect of themselves to continue to connect with you for as long as you want to, or for as long as they want to, right? But I was sharing earlier that sometimes you get the impulse to do something for your own reasons, but then something else comes out of it. As I was having that experience with him, it was so incredibly validating. And to be on the receiving end of divine messages and messages from the other side was so powerful that someone would allow themselves to be of service in that way. I suddenly had a completely new realization on the sessions that I have with my own clients, because all I do now when people show up for sessions with me is connect. They say this, whatever they want clarification on, and I just go, what y'all got to say? And that's all that happens in the 60 to 90 minutes that I connect with someone for whatever reason they've chosen to connect. And when you're in your shoes doing your own things, like, yeah, this is what I do in the world now. It's just what I do. It doesn't feel like a big deal. It's just who I am and what I do. It doesn't feel like a big deal. On the receiving end of messages from the other side, I suddenly got to be in the shoes of my clients, and I experienced it. And that gave birth within me to an entirely new appreciation for why I'm called to do what I do. When he did that for me, my sister felt closer to me, hugely closer to me. And the things that came through in that session was so validating for what my calling is in this world, and what I'm here for and why I'm here doing what I'm doing. I can't describe in words, because sometimes there's just no words to describe what you've experienced, but it gave me a whole new, different outlook on my life and what I do and what I'm here to do. When someone goes online and books a session with me, it just gave me a whole new appreciation and a whole new, completely different perspective on what I'm doing in the world. And that's no mistake, that I see this see what I do in a completely different way, and that I allow Spirit to work through me and to speak through me and to do everything that I do through, like almost everything that I create now, I should say everything that I create now is in partnership with Spirit. Can't create anything that's not in partnership with Spirit anymore. And it's just so powerful to have been on the receiving end of that, because it somehow did something inside of me for what I do for others in the world. So it was no mistake that I had the impulse to do that. It was beautiful and it was fun. It was validating as well, but it also changed me, So follow your impulse. Follow your impulse. So that's all I have to share. I'm done. We're complete. Unless you guys had any questions about anything that I shared. So Kimberly's saying, weird question, but do they prefer the afterlife or life here on Earth? And would they do it in another form again? I don't have the answer to that, so I'm going to tap into my divine team. Well, I have a perspective, but I want to come from a higher place. Do they prefer So they're confirming that to have made a decision to come here and be in this lifetime was a preference. We knew what would happen. It was not unexpected. Nothing that happened was unexpected. So if that soul then chooses to have another incarnation, another go around, they're doing it because they appreciate the ride and they appreciate the journey. So when we are on that other side, we make choices just as you do in human form, but our choices are from a higher, they're correcting me, they don't like the word higher. From that eternal perspective, we make choices there too, just as you do when we are, just as we do when we're in human form. They're saying the choices that we make are not from I prefer this or I don't prefer this, but more from how can this assist in different civilizations? How can my presence assist in different civilizations? So I hope that answers your question. I am complete, unless you guys had any other questions about anything. This is all that I had to share from my own journey over the last month or so. I'm sure we'll have future live streams. It's interesting. I noticed that our live streams are happening about once every 3 months. I am going to, once I release the Playground of Desire, which is at AlisonPhillips.tv/desire, I will move into doing monthly sessions with my divine team. That's all it's going to be, monthly sessions with my divine team. So you'll see some videos coming about that as well. If you do want to connect for a private session, that's at AlisonPhillips.tv/connect. I changed that page. And there's a couple of videos there and a couple of, please read and watch this before you come through for a session. So please do that. I am taking care of myself. Yes, I am. With my sister by my side. She's still here. Very, 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 very much here. So thank you for joining me for this little escapade, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For those of you, some of you, it's Monday. This is going to be an unlisted video, like I said, so make sure that you grab the link. If you have the link, you have access to it, and I'll send that out by email as well so that you guys can continue to review. For those of you who couldn't stay for the whole thing, you're welcome. You're welcome, Tanya. You're welcome, Elaine. You're welcome, Latoya. You're welcome, Carolyn, or Caroline, whichever way you pronounce that. You're welcome, Joanna. You're welcome, JC Moore. The joy of expansion. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I am enjoying the journey with all its ebbs and flows, ups and downs. Sometimes you're at the bottom of the hill. Sometimes you're at the top of the hill. But hey, it's all part of the ride, right? It's all part of the ride. You're welcome, Estelle. It was my pleasure to share, and it's my honor to share. I am aware that my journey is meant to be shared, not because that I'm special, not because of anything that I'm sharing is unique and different, because we're all having pretty much the same journey. But it's just what I'm called to do in the world, you know, called to be open, transparent, sharing. All right, y'all, we are done. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Some of you, it's Monday, like I said. Rest of your evening. Some of you, it's nighttime where you are. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for being a part of this Awaken community and showing up to have conversation about whatever we show up to have conversation about. It's a joy. It's an absolute joy to be a part of this. And those of you who are listening, you don't get the emails that I send out. Sometimes I do have private live streams just for my email list. You can find out about being on my email list at AlisonPhillips.tv/community if that floats your boat and if it resonates for you. If you just want to hang out here on YouTube, that's fine too. All right, everybody. I'm going to probably go out in nature and just to be out in the open air for a little bit and then come back and take a nap. I love you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.